Oh.
I didn't do anything to it. I just bought it from the store over there. You know, Panda Express.
When I hired the hitman, I didn't kill that person that they killed. They killed them. They did that. I had nothing to do with it. I just paid them to do it. Right. Hello and welcome to another video by Vegan FTA, and today we're going to be looking at Earthling Ed's video. Meat eater eats chicken in front of vegan. Can he be convinced to stop? We see this a lot, people eating animals who vegans are trying to advocate for in front of them to see if they perhaps can get a reaction out of them. But we'll see how Earthling Ed deals with this situation.
Hi Tyler, nice to meet you. My name is Ed. Today I'm at USC with a banner that says, give me your best argument for not being vegan. You're on your lunch break, which means you're eating right now. And obviously what you're eating isn't vegan. So we'll have a little chat about that, I'm sure. But what's your response to the banner in question?
I don't know. I guess I came here so I could get like more informed. Why do you think I should be vegan?
Well, because, I mean, we have a choice, don't we? And obviously by choosing to choose what you're eating right now.
I think he thinks he's being funny. He's got like a little smirk while he's doing it. So I think he thinks he's being funny.
Oh, you've chosen to buy something that has caused someone else harm and suffering, and obviously has taken their life from them. So veganism is really about the idea that if we can make, choices that reduce the suffering of others, then morally that should be the thing that we do. What do you think about that?
How does my orange chicken cause other people to suffer?
Well, I didn't say humans, but it causes others to suffer. In the case of your orange chicken, who do you think suffered for that?
Well, I guess chickens, right? But I don't even really know if this is chicken or not.
Yeah, presumably it is. So let's say that it is. Is there a moral concern to you consuming the flesh of a chicken?
No, I don't think so. I think we've been doing this for thousands of years. This is how we survive. This is...
We've been killing each other for thousands of years. It's how we survived. So I guess we should carry on. That is precisely why that level of argumentation doesn't work.
Well, I mean, obviously not everyone. I don't really see a problem with it.
Well, I guess, does the longevity of an action morally justify it continuing into the future, or does it justify it now? Just because we've done something for a long time, does that make it automatically acceptable now?
No, I don't think it does.
No.
I mean, you could look at like slavery or something. Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
But I don't know if like you could compare eating chickens to slavery.
Well, we don't need to compare them in terms of like the atrocities, as to atrocities, but more just to say, well, look, it's dangerous to say, well, hang on, we've done this for a long time, therefore it's okay to continue doing it. The logic you use to use the slavery as an example isn't to draw comparison necessarily, but to say, hey, there are implications to the logic that you've used.
Yeah. I mean, I like eating meat because it tastes good, and I just like the way it feels, I guess.
Yeah.
I like eating dog meat because it tastes good. I like the way it feels. I like eating human meat because it tastes good. I like the way it feels. We got here another argument that could lead to other atrocities.
I was much the same. Do you think that the enjoyment of meat, dairy and eggs morally justifies what happens to the animals to get those products?
I don't really know what happens to the animals in order to get the products.
No.
You want to like give me an education on it a little bit?
I mean, what I would love to do is give you a couple of resources afterwards for you to kind of look into your own time. But I guess primarily, for the purposes of this conversation, we just have to acknowledge the basic foundations, right? Which is to eat the chicken that you're currently consuming, or the multiple chickens that you're currently consuming. They will have had to be killed, right? So do you think it's morally justified to unnecessarily take the life of an animal?
So obviously there's a problem with taking the life of another human, right? But that's because, I guess that's because we have souls, or I don't know, but I don't know.
We're going to go down the soul route. Oh dear.
Soul.
I don't know, when I think of a chicken, I don't think it's really like, I don't know if the chicken's like thinking about the things that's being done to it.
Okay, so we're talking about maybe sentience rather than a soul. Chickens are sentient. Yeah.
I
Are
think
they
they
experiencing the things that are being done to them?
Well, sure, I guess everybody experiences their life, and they don't really even they don't think about like the way other people experience things. And I don't know if a chicken is conscious of it, and because it's not conscious of it, is it so bad if they don't even really know what's happening?
Oh, if you're not conscious of what's happening, a bad thing happening to you could actually be okay. Is that kind of where you're going with this?
Well, they might not have an awareness of like why things are being done to them. You know, they might not, why am I in this barn? Why am I being taken to this place? They might not have a conscious awareness of why the things are happening, but they still experience those things. They still are feeling the things that are happening to them. And I guess in terms of like what we do to others, it's not necessarily relevant the understanding they have of what's happening, but more the experience they have. You know, there are humans who might have cognitive impairments who may not be able to understand if someone's abusing them, but have an experience that is detrimental to them as a consequence of the abuse. That wouldn't make it moral, though.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. I think the only reason I'd really consider veganism is just like for the health benefits, which I've heard about. Yeah. But it doesn't weigh heavily on my consciousness.
Veganism for health benefits doesn't really make too much sense, because then how do you explain boycotting and avoiding like products that are animal tested or came from the body of an animal? I think he means to say he's interested in a specific type of plant-based diet. It seems nitpicky to say that, but it is important for people to know what veganism is, and a lot of the time they think it's some type of diet.
That I'm eating this, and this was like a chicken at one point. It tastes good. Yeah.
So with that in mind, obviously there are health benefits which are great. The kind of foundation for why you're eating the chicken you're eating right now is because you enjoy how they taste. Does that mean that we are morally justified to do whatever we want to an animal as long as we find enjoyment from it? Is the enjoyment what justifies the action?
Well, I guess that's implying that we have to justify anything that we do. I don't know if that's
What?
I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if me eating the chicken is justifying like what's being done to it. I didn't do anything to it. I just bought it from the store over there. You know, Panda Express made it for.
When I hired the hitman, I didn't kill that person that they killed. They killed them. They did that. I had nothing to do with it. I just paid them to do it. Right.
For me.
But why did those things happen to the chicken?
Well, once again, I don't know what's happening to the chicken.
No, that's just that they're being killed, right? They've been so a chicken from like a kind of a fast food type of place is being factory farmed. That's a fact. So they've been raised in an environment where there's tens of thousands of chickens around them. They've been selectively bred to reach slaughter weight in 6 weeks, which means that they suffer from organ failure. The feces on the barn floor causes ammonia burns, which can cause blindness. You know, eyesight damage, can burn the feathers off their skin. And then they're taken to a slaughterhouse where they're hung upside down, dragged through an electrified water bath, and then have their throat cut. That's kind of like a basic summary of the things that happens to chickens and will have happened to the chickens you're currently consuming. You said that that you don't even necessarily know that you need to justify anything.
Right.
Does that not mean that we can act with impunity, that there's no consequence because we don't need to justify the things that we do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the old question, like, when you meet your maker, how will you justify the things that you've done on this earth? But I guess I could sleep at night because I'm just eating this chicken. I didn't do anything to it. I guess the farmers who dragged that chicken and electrocuted it are probably gonna have to answer.
But why are they doing that? Who are they doing that for?
They're doing it for profits, right? Sure. Yeah, they're making it for the money.
Yeah, and you're providing the profit. You are giving them the profits. So you are directly responsible for these animals being killed.
Feeding them with the profits.
The consumer, myself, I guess. Yeah.
So the reason it happens is because we pay for it to happen.
Yeah.
And if we didn't pay for it to happen, it wouldn't happen.
Right. But is it not like just cheaper and a lot easier to not be a vegan?
It really depends what you're eating. I mean, you can find, fast food that's plant-based, or you can go to a supermarket and spend considerably less money than you would have on the Panda Express here. So it really varies. You can be a vegan who spends a lot of money or a vegan who doesn't spend that much money. So it can work both ways.
Yeah, well, you've given me a lot to think about.
Potentially.
Well, let's just bring it back to what we were saying before. If the foundation for what we do to animals is based on our enjoyment of it, are there any limitations to things that we should do to animals, regardless of how much we enjoy them? Like, are there some things that are wrong to do to animals, regardless of the enjoyment?
Yeah, I mean, like, you look like I guess, like, if somebody over there is, like, torturing a dog or a cat or something, I'm gonna feel bad for it because the dog's, like, cute and he's looking at me, he's like, help. But if it's, like, a chicken, I don't know.
Not really, what's the difference?
So you're going to feel bad because they look cute. Right. So if they were an ugly dog, their life wouldn't mean anything to you because they're ugly. Right.
You know, obviously you're saying, well, I'd feel bad because, you know, you maybe empathize with the dog easier than you empathize with the chicken. But morally, is there a difference between causing harm to a dog or causing harm to a pig or a cow or a chicken or a lamb?
Spider or something.
Well, I mean, you know, is there more? I guess with a spider, we can create somewhat of a distinction, although we shouldn't unnecessarily harm spiders. But I guess with these other animals, when we look at like their cognitive capabilities, we look at their ability to experience, there's very little in between the animals, especially between, say, pigs and cows and chickens and dogs and cats, of course. So morally, why would it be wrong for someone to beat up a dog, but for someone not to cut the throat of a chicken or a cow or a pig?
I don't think beating a dog is the same thing as slaughtering the chicken.
Would you, if you had the choice, would you rather be beaten?
Well, it's not really the same thing, to be honest. One is taking away the entire life of somebody, and one is causing them a bit of harm. You know, both are bad. Both are bad things to do to an animal. But one is definitely worse than the other. So you're right there. But I have a feeling that when he says that, he thinks that kicking the dog is actually worse than slitting the throat of the chicken.
If you had the choice, would you rather be beaten up or would you rather have your throat cut?
I guess cut my throat, make the pain easier, yeah.
But the beating up isn't to kill you. It's just you're going to get beaten up once and then that person's going to leave you alone.
Exactly, yeah.
So you'd rather be killed than just be beaten up once?
I'd definitely rather just end it all at that point, yeah.
So for you, the notion of death.
Why is he smiling like that? It seems like he might be not being too honest. I don't know. But obviously, even if you would prefer your life to just be taken away from you rather than getting beaten up, we typically weigh out that someone's life is more of value than a moment of harm. Even though both of those situations that the person would be put in would be wrong for someone to do to them.
Death is more palatable than the notion of temporary harm.
I mean, I guess it depends on how badly I'm getting beaten up, right?
Well, I would say that if someone just kicked a dog, punched a dog, just one kick, one punch, almost everyone here would condemn that. I don't think anyone's going to walk past and see someone kick their dog and go, oh, okay, that seems totally...
Yeah, that's...
But if the kicking of a dog, just a kick...
So that's effed up, kicking a dog, but slitting an animal's throat and eating their corpse. You see the problem we're having here?
Of a dog is f***ed up. Then why isn't the slaughtering of these animals, you know, the life of subjugation and fear, you know, the confinement of the chickens you're consuming, the selective breeding of the chickens you're consuming, but ultimately the electrified water bath and also the blade across the throat. How is just kicking the dog wrong? But all of these things that have led up to the moment that we're currently at now with you eating the dismembered parts of chickens, how is that moral if just kicking a dog is f***ed up?
Well, I guess I don't really think about morals when I'm just like eating to survive, you know. I need to stay alive, and that's my way of, you know.
That is with the implication that you don't have plant-based products available for you to survive. That is making out like, oh, all I have are these animals to pay for to be killed. However, that is not the case.
So did you get the Panda Express, this Panda Express dish, because this Panda Express dish is all you could eat to survive?
It's the most convenient thing, and I know what it tastes like, so, you know.
So yeah, it's not a survival thing at all then. It's convenience and it's taste pleasure.
I guess the reason I asked that question is it's almost a red herring, because you're not eating that because that's what you needed to eat to survive. You could have eaten a multitude of other things, anything else really, and that would also fulfill the requirements that you need to get calories at lunchtime. So this consumption right now isn't predicated on a need for survival. It's you wanted to consume that, which is why you bought it.
Yeah, like the taste of it.
Exactly. So it's not a necessity for survival. And so if the death of those chickens that you're consuming now didn't occur because it had to occur, then how is that morally justified when you could simply buy something else, which means that in the future, chickens won't have to face the same life and ultimate death that these chickens you're consuming did?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Yeah, I mean, it's not morally justified. I guess I'm going to hell for eating all these chickens.
Well, I mean, ultimately, we don't decide what happens. I don't believe in heaven or hell, so I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think of some eternal retribution as a consequence of the choices that we make now. But I do think that there is a moral concern around that, because fundamentally, for me, the issue of morals shouldn't be based on the fear of eternal, damnation, but more based on the fact that right now we have the ability to reduce suffering for others. And regardless of whether we go to heaven or hell is irrelevant. If we can do that, we should do it just because it's the right thing to do.
Well, whatever helps you sleep at night, right? So if you can go to bed at night knowing that you're morally justified in whatever you did during the day, then it's okay, right?
I mean, that helps, but ultimately, do we do this
No, then, because it's still about you and not about the morality of a situation.
because of us, or do we do that because we can reduce harm for others? I mean, do you not beat up an old lady when you walk past her so that you can sleep better at night, or do you not beat up an old lady when you walk past her because beating up an old lady is a terrible thing to do?
Well, yeah, if I beat up the old lady, then I'd feel bad for it. But I'm not killing these chickens. I'm just eating them.
Sure, but the consumption.
You're paying. We've already been through this. You've already understood that you as a consumer are directly responsible for why they are killing the chickens. We've already been through it. We don't need to go through it again.
Chicken.
No, but the purchasing of the chickens is now means that Panda Express are going to buy more chickens. So now they're going to pay the slaughterhouse for those chickens, who are going to pay the farmers to raise those chickens. It's a supply chain. And so the consumption of these chickens right now is meaning that more chickens are going to endure what they've endured as a consequence of you buying the chickens that you bought today.
Yeah, I mean, I think whether I buy the chicken or not, like the chickens will continue to be slaughtered. And if I don't buy it, or if somebody else doesn't buy it, they're just going to throw it away, right? It's going to go bad, and then more chickens.
But if it is the case that they can't sell these chickens, then they're going to stop breeding them. And the way to think about it is by you purchasing this, there is plant-based options that would go to waste. Every choice that we make is saying that some food is being prioritized over others. Yeah. So if you didn't buy the chicken from Panda Express and opted to buy plant-based food instead, and then enough people start to do that, which is hopefully what will happen, that sends a signal to these industries that we don't want to consume as much or any in the future. And so the system changes. But if we keep paying for it, it keeps happening. We buy, and as a consequence, they die. So that's the supply chain that exists. But we don't have to fulfill that supply chain. We can, fulfill a different supply chain and ask for a different system of food production as a consequence of that.
I think you're right.
So where does that leave you?
I'm still going to continue to buy this chicken because I like it, and
so,
like I said earlier, I guess it's like if I can go to sleep at night and not feel like I've done anything wrong by eating this Panda Express, then I think that's okay for me.
And would you use that same logic for another scenario? If someone can go to sleep at night even though they've abused a child, does that make it morally permissible because they can go to sleep at night?
Why are you thinking about it?
For them?
No. I'm having to really think about that one.
Maybe. Not for me.
But does that not mean, therefore, that there is no such issue when it comes to the harming of others? As long as the person perpetuating that harm can sleep at night, there should be no repercussions to the infliction of unnecessary suffering.
I guess that's like depending on who you ask. I think like people who harm children or people who are sexual predators and stuff, you could look at them like, oh, they're an evil person, or what if they just have like a mental illness? This is something that they have to do. It's not justifying it. This is something that they have to do, and they feel like they can't live without doing it. So today, in this climate where we're like preaching like mental health awareness and
we're not talking about whether or not that person's bad. We're talking about whether or not the action is bad. Action is wrong, and action is something that you think someone ought to do.
and all that stuff, it's just like if you want to talk about if you want to compare abusing children or like the morals of abusing children and eating Panda Express, I mean, it's like
It's not a comparison of the actions, it's the application of your logic to different scenarios. You're saying that this is fine because I can sleep at night, but the logic you've used, by implication, justifies any action as long as the perpetrator of that harm is someone who can sleep at night regardless of the harm that they've caused, which I think is dangerous.
Yeah.
So you're saying that
I don't have a moral or ethical argument against veganism. I support anyone who wants to be vegan. I just like eating meat, and that's why I'm not a vegan.
Sure.
But if there was no meat to eat, I would be a vegan.
Sure, of course you would.
Yeah.
But the consequence is now that because you're buying this, that means that other animals are going to take their place as a consequence.
So I should sacrifice my desire for eating meat so that nobody
Yeah, so nobody else gets harmed.
else will do the same thing, and the cycle continues. That's how it feels.
Other people will burgle if you don't burgle. Other people will assault people if you don't assault people. Even if you have the desire to do it, it would be a wrong thing, even if other people would take your place and do it instead. It principally is a wrong thing to do. So whether or not other people would do it doesn't make much sense to talk about.
But right now, but that's only because not enough people are doing it.
Right.
But if everyone who felt the same way as you, who in other words said, well, I wouldn't mind if the world was vegan, if everyone did that, then this would begin to stop and would begin to change.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
the only way we actually create any transition is by people who might agree on some level, actually saying, well, there is a right reason to not be buying this. There is a reason why I shouldn't necessarily be supporting these products.
Yeah.
But in the absence of doing that, then nothing will change.
Preach. Yeah, no, I totally agree with what you're saying. I just think that maybe one day I'll have a moment where I see a chicken and I'll start to feel bad for it. I don't know. When I look at this, I just see like food and I'm hungry and I'm just
That's
not.
because that's what it looks like, food, right?
You're
And you're hungry, so
disconnected.
that's what you see. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't look beyond what we just see on surface level. We can objectify anyone, we can objectify anything, we can turn anything into a commodity. We do it all the time with humans, with other animals, it doesn't matter. And then we can detach from what we're supporting with the consequence of what we're supporting. It's easy to do that, but that doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do just because we have the psychological ability to be able to perceive things without having to actually rationalize the consequence of what it is we're supporting. Just because you see that as being food doesn't mean that the harm inflicted by the consumption of that food doesn't exist. And so it's about looking beyond just the surface level and intellectually acknowledging that there's something else at play here other than what we see on the surface.
Well, I think I'll definitely think. I think now, after having this conversation with you, I'll definitely think more about the chickens that had to suffer for me to enjoy this Panda Express, but I think I'll continue to enjoy it. So
Maybe for now. I was much the same. I used to enjoy fried chicken.
Plus, worry or think about them more as you're consuming their bodies. You'll have a little thought for them. Yeah, what does that do for them? But it doesn't serve the victim. And if you were in their position, you wouldn't want someone having a thought of consideration for you after they'd paid for you to be killed.
Enjoy medium rare steak, but then I recognize that my enjoyment of these foods isn't a good enough reason for what happens to animals to continue. For the same reason that all of the things that people can do that might provide them enjoyment aren't automatically justified as a consequence of them finding them enjoyable. Someone might enjoy abusing a dog, beating them. Someone might enjoy, raping an animal. Someone might enjoy all of these different things, but we wouldn't say, hang on a minute, these things are permissible simply because of the enjoyment behind them. Because there's someone else, or there's an animal, there's a victim who has suffered as a consequence of that. Yeah. And that should be more important than our personal enjoyment.
I don't have anything else to add. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I guess, do you approach this from, will you continue because you disagree with me, or because you're just apathetic to that?
Yeah, I care about kids being abused. I don't like dogs being kicked, but I don't really care about chickens, I guess.
No.
I guess that's what I realize now.
Yeah. I guess, do you reckon there's a hypocrisy? Remove the child abuse aspect out of it.
That's fine. If you don't care about it, then it doesn't matter. Then the victim isn't actually a victim. then what happens to them isn't so bad. You haven't created a justification for why it would be so different for a chicken to be abused, to be killed. So they're going through the same sort of horrific scenario that a dog or a human would in that context. And because you don't care about them, suddenly it isn't a problem and you'll actually continue perpetuating that harm. It doesn't really make much sense at all.
Just more about the like-to-like infliction of harm on another animal.
Yeah.
Do you think there's not a contradiction at play between your...
Definitely. I have a dog bias, I guess. Or
Yeah.
a cat bias. I don't really care about chickens.
And he can't really be blamed. We're socialized into thinking this way. Of course, we have a dog or cat bias if we're not paying for them to be killed.
And would you be apathetic to someone harming a dog or a cat? You know, if, let's say, it was happening in front of us, would you do anything or would you allow it to continue?
No, I would try to stop it for sure, yeah.
And so then how would you attempt to try to stop it but then go to Panda Express after you've tried to stop it? Would there not seem to be some obvious kind of hypocrisy at play there?
No, not to me, at least. Not in my day-to-day life.
If the person you were trying to stop turned around and said, look, I enjoy it, you know, I've just thought about it and I don't really care about dogs, would you then go, oh, actually, fair play to you, carry on?
Well, I don't think I really care about what he thinks about it.
No.
I just don't want him to hurt the dog anymore.
No, oh my god. Oh, it's all coming together.
I wouldn't ask him why he's doing it.
No.
Right?
And but then you wouldn't accept his logic as being sound for why he's doing it.
I'll be like, no, like I respect your opinion, but stop hurting the dog.
Yeah. Can we see the parallel at play here?
Sure. Yeah.
And if that person didn't stop them, what would happen then? Would you just at what point do you say, does that not work the same way for us? Does that logic not seem sound for what we're trying to justify, what you're trying to justify right now? How can one be illogical but the other logical, or are both just simply illogical?
I guess I've never had to like justify my food choices.
And that's the thing. If you're not having to think about it, you're just socialized that way, it's just the way it is. When you sit down and you attempt to justify it, you're just going to think, why is someone making me justify this benign thing that I've just been doing my entire life? Everyone around me has been doing it. Why am I being made to justify it? So you're going to sit there maybe defensive, maybe apathetic, like this guy seems to be. And any logic thrown your way is going to be really difficult to digest because you're just habitually used to doing this certain thing.
You know, like the things that I want to eat.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to answer that. But I know, like, you know, I can't speak for anybody else besides me, but I know that if I see somebody kicking a dog, it's going to make me feel bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know if me buying this and eating it is the same thing as someone kicking it in front of me. You know, maybe if I see it more, maybe if I lived on a farm.
But then you're thinking more still about yourself, like how it makes you feel, and if it's like directly in front of you. Like, if it's still happening behind closed doors or in front of you, the bad thing has still happened to that individual. That's the fundamental problem.
For a summer and I saw the chickens being slaughtered, maybe I'd start to feel like, oh no, not that, you know?
Perhaps so.
Because I just met this girl yesterday and she said she had like 7 chickens and like they gave the chickens names and stuff and they had to like kill the male chicken because he's making all this noise and stuff. I'm like, oh no. And like her sister's all attached to the chickens because they have names and stuff. I'm like, I can see that. But I guess since I don't see it, I'm ignorant to it. And
So true. It's out of sight, out of mind, isn't it? And that's part of the problem, isn't it? Because we are so removed from the process, because it just comes like it does when we buy it. We don't have to think about it because, why would we? And then, as you say, it's like, hang on a minute, I've never had to justify my food choices before because we haven't. But I guess now the conversation is changing, and there is an element of awareness that's emerging about the reality of what we're supporting. And then, as a consequence of an awareness emerging, the need for justification comes as a consequence of that as well. So potentially it's something that we do need to start justifying because we are becoming more aware that there is harm involved in the process. Do you agree?
Yeah. Well, thank you for this.
Yeah.
I got to go to class.
I understand.
Do you want to put in your YouTube?
Yes, please. And I'd just love to give you a couple of recommendations for things that maybe would help you become a little bit more aware, because that's primarily it, isn't it?
Awareness, yeah.
Without awareness, how can we live differently. So,
but in front of you or not, we know that this has happened. We know that these things are happening to animals and that it's something that we must stop as soon as possible. I think Earthling Ed did a good job with somebody who was displaying quite a bit of apathy. He was still opening up a little bit at the end there. And he wasn't completely shut down because he was still trying to make what we'd call excuses. Each time it seemed like the conversation would just end, he was carrying on with it. So there could have been some curiosity or maybe some perhaps defensiveness. Who knows where it's really coming from. But thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you think down below. And don't forget to go vegan for the animals because they are who it means everything to.